Hodly hodly YouTube, I am back with 5 more things I have done, and my week off in June really helped me get a lot of these things done. And I have a week coming up at the end of July, and I hope it leads to yet another video as I plow through more and more wonderful things. First up, we got a couple of books. The first one, when I first saw it announced, I was like, yes, because Aliens is my favorite movie. Well, sorry, one of my favorite movies. Obviously, Star Wars are my favorite movies, but it's in the running after Star Wars. It's right near the top of the next ones, and there's lots of great characters in, especially the Aliens movie, the second movie, which is my favorite. And one of them is a little Latina known as Vasquez. Yes, they did a book on Vasquez. So this was released in 2022, I believe, a couple of years ago. And I thought the whole book was going to be about her, but only the first part's about her. And the bulk of it is about her 2 kids. So basically, Jeanette Vasquez grew up on Earth, I think in the LA region, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, actually, but I think it's around there. And this was in the future, from our times anyways. And at some point, the Earth went through some sort of, I don't know if it was just in the States or if it was worldwide. It was some sort of biological problem, kind of like COVID, where a whole bunch of people died. There was some sort of disease. I forget exactly what it was, but her parents died from it. So she was kind of traumatized as a kid by this, and the only real family member she had left was her mom's sister, so her aunt, and I forget her name, but she's the one who basically raised, what am I talking about? Jeanette's sister is the only one who survived, and not having parents anymore and being raised by her sister, who I think was a nurse and was always working and stuff like that, she had a bit of a hard time and eventually fell in with like a street gang. And one night when they were partying and stuff, she got caught up leaving a party when the cops raided and got caught up in a bit of action with the cops. And the cops, the one cop like basically pinned the blame for a shooting on her. So she got sent to jail, and she was like, I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out of here. My only real hope is to join the Colonial Marines. And she had Marine blood in her family. So she was like, if I can enlist in the Marines and get out of here, I'll be fine. You know, I'm meant to be in the Army anyways, so it'll get me out of prison, it'll get me on the straight and narrow, and I can go from there, sort of thing. So eventually they did accept her, and she was flying, she was ready to go, but then she met this guy that she had an affair with, and she ended up getting pregnant. So she basically had 2 choices. You can give up the kids after you have them and continue on with the Marines, or you can keep the kids and stay in jail or something like that. It was really only the one option that she could have taken. So she ended up having the kids and giving them up. And her sister ended up raising them for her. Excuse me, I forget her sister's name. I forget it. It might come to me. Rosanna, something like that, maybe. Anyways, doesn't matter. So, and her sister wanted to do this for her because she's like, we got to keep we're the only 2 left. We got to keep this family going. You go do what you got to do in the Marines. I'll take care of your kids, no problem. So she ended up having twins, a boy and a girl, Ramon and Letitia. And so Jeanette went off into the Marines. We all know where that led, into the Aliens movie, where eventually she got offed by the aliens, and that was the end of her story. So the bulk of the story focuses then on her kids. More so Letitia than Ramon, but Ramon is still heavily involved. So basically, Letitia was raised by Jeanette's sister. I want to say Rosanna. Can't remember for sure. And they would talk about their family and their connection to the military and the Marines specifically. And so eventually Letitia she wanted to join the Marines and follow in her mother's footsteps and be the best Marine she could, and even go as high as she possibly could. So she ended up getting accepted. Ended up doing really well. Wanted to get a promotion, but got screwed out of it by another candidate who had resources and money, and kind of screwed Letitia. So she kind of fell out of love with the Marines eventually because of these experiences. And in the meanwhile, her brother Ramon, who was a really smart guy, he did really well in school, he was always cooking up schemes and stuff like that, he ended up getting involved with Julia Yutani, Wayland Yutani, right? So he got involved for his big brain with the company and ended up taking on some responsibilities that, let's say, were a little under the table, so to speak. So eventually, after enough time passes and Letitia became so disenfranchised with her experiences in the Marines, Ramon introduced her to a guy that worked for the company, Jacob, who was looking for a security force on this planet they were going to travel to. And it's very similar environment as Earth. Once they get it terraformed, it'll be like basically another Earth. They can start a new civilization on it. Jacob's intentions were all really noble, and Letitia was like, "Oh fuck, this sounds great. It sounds like a cakewalk, and I'm getting paid well to do it. Sign me up. I'm on board with this." And of course, she needed a security team, so she went and talked to all her best friends from her time in the Marines and got all them to come on board because they were sick of living the lives they were living, and this seemed like such a cushy gig with good money. So they all ended up signing on to this expedition to this planet. So 5 years in cryosleep was the trip. They get there, but once they get there, they find out not everything's as peaceful and as innocent as it seems. Of course, Ramon is involved in some underhanded stuff. So although on the surface, this colony on this soon-to-be terraformed world seems noble, scientific, we're setting up a new colony for humanity to thrive, in the bowels of this facility, they have xenomorphs, they have facehuggers, they have queens, and they are doing research on them. And of course, what happens when humans do research on xenomorphs? The xenomorphs escape and they kill everyone, right? So Letitia quickly learns that Ramon was up to no good. It all backfires in their face. People start dying, and that's as far as I'll go in case you want to read it. You'll have to see exactly how it ends, but Letitia definitely follows in her mother's footsteps pretty closely, seeing those goddamn bugs up close and personal. Heebie-jeebies time, right? Great book, though. Aliens is the best alien movie by far. They're all great, but Aliens is just like, it is a cinematic masterpiece in so many different ways. And I can't wait for Alien Earth to come out this summer on FX, but to have a little backstory into one of the most recognizable characters of that movie, right? Outside of the main cast that survive, it's pretty cool to have that kind of story. So, lovely book. If you like aliens, read it. Next up, book 2 of the Maztica trilogy, called Viper Hand. Written in 1990, just like the one that came before it. Oh no! In this book, so Poshly, the Eagle Knight, helped Eryx and Halloran escape from that dark elf, the Drow or whatever, that was chasing them down. And at the end of the last book, so as this book opens up, they are heading to Nexal, which is the biggest city in Maztica, and basically the center of the true world is what they call it. Big pyramids and stuff like that, ruled over by a guy named Nal Takona, who is actually Poshly's uncle. So he thinks he can bring Eryx and Halloran to Nexal and give them safe harbor, and they can explain everything that happened in that first book with the Legion from Farron that came overseas and invaded, and they can formulate some sort of a plan. Now, in the meantime, the Golden Legion is marching towards Nexal because they've heard how much gold is in this city, and they want it. I mean, they've already gotten enough, but we know enough gold is never enough, right? So they're marching, they conquer Koltaka, and then they come across Eric's home village of Palul, something like that. And Eric's, in the meantime, her and Halloran have had a fight. And so they, I think that happened once they got to Nexel and spent some time in Nexel. Poshly offered to marry Eric's to keep her there and keep her safe and keep watch over her. And Halloran kind of saw this happen but didn't understand the context and didn't stay long enough to hear Eric say no, because she's in love with Halloran. So he was heartbroken and eventually treated Eric's like shit, and she was like, what's wrong with you? And they were like, fine. And then she left and he stayed. So she went back to her home village of Palul, which was on the path of the Golden Legion's march towards Nexel. So they get to Palul, and the leaders there formulate a plan, and they say, we'll welcome the Golden Legion with open arms. We'll plan a big party for them. But in the meantime, we will hide all of our warriors inside of buildings, behind buildings, and they're going to lay in wait until we get these newcomers good and drunk, and then we'll jump on them, we'll kill them all when they least suspect it, and finally this threat of the Golden Legion will be behind us. Now, what they didn't count on was Cordell's mystery woman, the albino elf, Darian. She has magical ways. She ends up taking some soldier aside and working some spell on him and finding out from him exactly what has been planned behind the scenes. So she eventually tells Cordell as the festivities are going on, and all of a sudden he's like, what? So then he's like, treachery, eh? So be it. So then the Golden Legion just lays waste to almost everybody in Palul. In the meantime, Poshly and Halloran have heard about what's about to go on, so they're rushing towards the village to try and save Eric's. They get there, they save her, and they retreat to Eric's childhood home, which is up on a hill, and her father is still there. Lotil, I think his name is. He's gone blind in the meantime since she got kidnapped all those years ago, and but is still able to weave his loom and his feathers into garments and stuff like that. So he's still up there thriving. They retreat there to hide out, and Lotil welcomes Halloran with open arms, and he can tell, even though he's blind, he can sense there's a connection between Halloran and Eric's that needs to be fulfilled, and he welcomes Halloran as his son, says, you two got to get married. There's a special bond between you, and Eric's is gifted the cloak of one plume, which is the second sign of the return of the god Kotal, who is the peaceful god of these people, not what's his face, Zaltek, who is the one that they sacrifice all the victims' hearts to, and is basically the god of war, which is what most people in Exile pray to. So they're kind of saved from the massacre, and eventually they return to Nexel after the Golden Legion has moved on. The Golden Legion, when they get to Nexel, Naltakona, who rules it, has heard all the rumors about it, whatever. He thinks these men are gods. He thinks there's no way we can beat these guys. All we can do is welcome them to our city and hope it goes well. So that's what he does. Lots of people disagree with it, so there's a lot of strife, there's a lot of tension going on in Nexel as the Golden Legion invades, sets up shop, disrupts everybody's lives, and Eric's, in the meantime, she has a certain power about her, and she has had a vision where Naltakona is going to be sacrificed on top of the pyramid in Nexel, and that's going to trigger basically the end of days in Nexel and the lands surrounding it. So she says, we can't let this happen. So Poshly, in the meantime, has gone back to Nexel to try and counsel his uncle. But Naltakona is not having any of it. He's going along with all the demands from Cordell in the Golden Legion. And so Eric's and Halloran figure, we got to sneak back into Nexel and see what we can do. tell Poshley about your vision and figure out what we're going to do to try and save Nalcona from being killed and triggering this end of days scenario, right? So they get back into the city, they find Poshley, they formulate a plan, and they almost make it. But in the end, Nalcona does get sacrificed. He does get killed. And then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. In the meantime, the priests of Zaltek, the god of war in Nexel, have been welcoming soldiers to their ranks, a secret sect they call the Cult of the Viper Hand. So these soldiers come in, they get branded with the Viper, and they are basically signing up to take on the Golden Legion when the time is right and protect their home. So the leader of these priests, Hoaxidal or something like that, is calling the shots with the Cult of the Viper Hand. And as Nalcona is killed, that's when the Cult of the Viper Hand strikes, and they take war to the Golden Legion, and all hell breaks loose in Nexel. And while all this humanity is going on, the gods are unhappy. Zaltek is exulting in all of these sacrifices he's getting, but another god that's at play that we've heard a little bit about through the first book and into the second book, the forgotten god, the god of the spider, Lolth, her people are the Dark Elves, the Drow, and they have lost their way. They have more gone over to the side of Zaltek, and this has pissed Lolth off. So as the Cult of the Viper Hand starts killing the Golden Legion members and giving more power to Zaltek, Lolth finally explodes and makes her presence known. The Mount Zaytal, a volcano where Zaltek's power is based, erupts and explodes. There's lava, there's ash everywhere. Lolth turns all of the Dark Elves into these weird spider things where they still have their upper torso. They call it Driders. Darien is one of the drows that are punished by her into this weird form. And all of the priests of Zaltek are turned into like orcs. All the Jaguar and Eagle Knights are turned into like ogres. Other guys are turned into trolls. So all of a sudden, there's all this war going on in Nexel. The volcano erupts. Monsters are being spawned from all these once humans. And it's all anybody who's still human, like the Golden Legion, Eric's and Halloran. It's all they can do is try and escape Nexel with their lives as the lakes start to freeze, which is another sign of the coming of Kotal, the peaceful god, the god of the plume. So that's a good thing at least, but there's all sorts of pandemonium and chaos. And kind of as the book ends, we see Cordell escapes with some members of the Golden Legion. Eric's and Halloran escape. Poshley escapes, but he only escapes because he's turned into an eagle, kind of permanently sort of thing. So there are some people that make it out, not a lot. And as the book ends, they make it out and they just start marching away from Nexel to the south in order to find refuge and put as much distance between them and all the monsters as they can. So it's kind of an Empire Strikes Back ending in this one. Very grim, a lot of death, a lot of anxiety, a lot of cliffhanger, what's going to happen kind of thing. And yeah, well, I've already started the third book, so I don't want to say I can't wait to see what happens in the third book, because I already know some of what happens, just not all of it yet. But either way, this this trilogy so far, when I first started reading it, I was like, I don't think I'm going to like this story as much as all the other Forgotten Realms books that I've read recently. But as it goes, as time goes by and I read more and more of each of these books, I'm starting to love it more and more with each passing page, right? So really good story. Really enjoy it, and I can't wait to see how the third book ends. I'm about halfway through right now, so we'll see. Next up, a movie that I didn't plan on watching. I was doing something in the living room one day with my hands, and I was flipping channels, and I just happened to turn to AMC or something, and a movie was starting, and it was one that I wanted to see when it came out, but just never got around to it. And the movie in question is Bill and Ted Face the Music. This movie was released in 2020 and takes place in 2020. So it was prophesied in the first Bill and Ted movie, I believe it was, that the Wild Stallions would write a song that would unite and save the world in the future. That hasn't happened yet. And the time-traveling time stream police are getting a little miffed at Bill and Ted. So Rufus is dead. Their previous contact in this Department of Time and Space Continuum, I guess. But his daughter Kelly, I believe her name is Kelly, Kathy? I think it's Kelly. Who's played by Kristen Schaal, who does the voice of Louise on Bob's Burgers, the youngest daughter, and her voice is so distinct. I love it. So whenever I see her in something, I'm like, I can't. Every time I hear her voice, I just think of fucking Bob's Burgers, and I love it. So she comes and tries to help them and says, like, you guys got to get going. You got to write that song. If you don't save the world by 7:17 p.m. tonight, it's going to be dire consequences, right? So Bill and Ted are like, oh no. And they talk to the leader of the time space continuum department. I forget her name, but she voices her displeasure with Bill and Ted and reiterates the fact that you got to get this done or the world is doomed. So they're like, okay. So then they're having other problems too. Their wives, who they took from their past time traveling adventures, are a little bit miffed at the current situation. You have to watch it to see exactly what I'm talking about, but it's pretty funny. So there's a lot of strife in Bill and Ted's life right now. Their band isn't going well. Their marriages are on the rocks. It's a bit of a shit show. The only bright spot in their lives are their daughters. They each have a daughter, Billy and Thea, and who are both into music and really love their dads, and are the bright spots in their lives amidst all this other kind of nonsense. So Bill and Ted come up with the idea, we'll take the time-traveling phone booth and go visit our future selves to get the song that we wrote, and then come back and save the day. Only they reach their future selves. I forget what year they go to, but those guys are like, yeah, we haven't wrote the song yet. We're never able to get it done. Oh, and by the way, your wives hate you and they divorced us and all this other nonsense, right? So they're like, oh, shit. So then it leads them on this chase to try and track down the song in these different kind of time frames, I think it is. But in the meantime, the person that leads the time-space continuum police is like, these guys aren't going to get it done. I think we just need to kill them, and maybe that will set things to rights, right? So she gets this robot named Dennis to go on an assassination attempt on Bill and Ted. He's not able to track down them, but he is able to eventually track down Thea and Billy, who in the meantime have been trying to help their dads. So they go time traveling as well. And once they run into Kelly and go back to try and recruit some musicians to help their dads write the song and get it done. They get Jimi Hendrix, Mozart, Louis, I forget his name. You'll watch it. You'll know who I'm talking about. Louis something. Fuck. I don't know why I can't remember it, but anyways, so they're off trying to help their dad save the day by recruiting all these musicians to help with this song. And Dennis eventually runs into them, and he kills all of them by accident and sends them to hell. So Bill and Ted, after their adventures, they're finally able to visit like their future older selves and get a USB with the song on it. And they're traveling back to the present. They run into Dennis, And Dennis is like, he informs them of his bad. He's like, my bad, I killed your kids and all the Jimi Hendrix and shit, and they're in hell now. And they're like, what? It's like, well, you got to send us there and kill us. He's like, I can't do that. You've got the song, I can't do that. And they're like, they break the USB, and they're like, well, now you got to kill us. So he kills them, they go to hell. So they have to find a way to escape hell and eventually get back to the current time at 7:17 p.m. and perform this song. So eventually they figure out, although they are the ones who perform the song, the writing credits aren't them. It's a different Preston, whatever their names are. It's their daughters who write the song. So that's the mystery here. It's the daughters that write the song and the dads that perform it. So once they figure that out, they're able to put on the concert, play the song, save the world, whatever. And they have to send all sorts of people out amongst all the space-time continuums to do it all at the same time to make sure everything is good. So obviously it wasn't as good as the first movie. Nothing ever is. It was kind of goofy, corny, but so were the original Bill and Ted's, right? I felt that it kind of fit in well with the other movies and was kind of a nice little bookend to the franchise. Bringing in, they both had daughters to show them in the future, you know what I mean? And show that they hadn't changed really one bit, sort of thing. So not a great movie, but a good movie worth a watch, sort of thing, especially if you like the other Bill and Ted movies. So yeah, fun times. And I ran into it completely by accident on cable, so that's fun. It's always fun when you turn on a cable channel and like a movie comes on that you've really wanted to watch, or one that you've watched a million times but you really love, and it's always more special when it just comes on cable. I mean, you could grab it off the shelf and put it in the DVD player or bring it up on Netflix or whatever, but there's something special about when you just randomly run into it on cable TV. It's weird, and I've heard that from other people too, but humans are weird. We have weird behavior. Next up, the thing I dropped earlier, we're gonna, oh no, that's last. We're gonna finish her off with 2 video games. I'm trying to get this with my feet. There we go. First game up, I downloaded on the PS4 a while back because me and James had been playing those games from Hazelight Studios that you need 2 players for. The first one was It Takes Two, and then most recently we played A Way Out. This game, I think, was developed by Hazelight Studios, but maybe they were a different name then, or maybe these guys were working at this different studio and then formed Hazelight. Because it's not Hazelight Studios that is credited making this game, it's some other studio. But when you look on Hazelight's website, it is one of their listed games, and it plays like one of these other games that we've played. And it is called Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons. So, this game was good, but it was also kind of disappointing because when we went to play it, we got it going and we're like, oh, why is your controller not working? Like, you can't seem to move. You can't play it with 2 players. It's only a 1-player game. So basically you control the 2 brothers. You move the bigger brother with the L stick, you move the little brother with the R stick, and the little brother's move or action is done with R2, and the big brother's actions are done with L2. So you control both brothers yourself on one controller. So we couldn't play it together, so I had to play it by myself. So I found that very disappointing. But I heard they did a re-release of the game. They redid it, and they made a 2-player option where you could play it like the other games together, solving the puzzles with 2 people at the same time. So that was kind of disappointing, but it is what it is. Anyways, this game was released originally in 2013, and the characters don't really speak English. It's kind of weird. It's set in this weird fantasy land, and basically it starts off with a cutscene of the younger brother having kind of a nightmare recollection of being lost at sea and his mother drowning, and he couldn't do anything to save her. And then it cues to him kneeling at his mother's grave up the hill from their house, and he's obviously upset and missing his mom and recalling these events. His brother calls him away, and they go down to the doctor's place or whatever, and he finds out that his dad is sick, and he's at the doctor's, and it's not looking good. So the doctor informs the brothers that you need to visit this tree and gain this substance that will heal your father. Now, they never say anything in English, so I'm just interpreting this through what I had to go through and what I had to get at the end of the game to save the guy's life, sort of thing. So then basically you just set off on an adventure, the two of you together, to get this substance, get back to your dad in time while he's still alive, give it to him, and hopefully save him. So as you make your way out of the village, you run into minor problems at first, like a guy bullying you and locking gates on you kind of thing, and then a dog that you have to avoid. But then as you get going and more into the outside world, you run into wolves, you run into this the aftermath of an epic battle between these giants that present its own kind of dangers, and then eventually you come across this tribe of primitives that are having some sort of ceremony where it looks like they're about to sacrifice this young woman. And so the two brothers intervene and free her, and she joins their adventure. And the little brother is a little sussy of her, but the older brother and this girl seem around the same age, and he becomes a little smitten by her, and she's obviously smitten by him. And eventually she leads them to this cave entrance, and they go in with the little brother being like, I don't know about this. They get inside. She's a spider lady, so she's actually a spider, and she reveals her true self, webs them all up. But eventually they're able to escape the web and take her on, and eventually they defeat her. But as she is dying, she stabs the older brother through the heart with one of her sharp taloned legs, and he ends up dying just as they reach the tree of life to get the substance they need to save their father. So the little brother first witnesses his mom drown, then sees his brother get stabbed through the heart by a spider freak, and he tries to use the water of life on his brother to save him after he's died, but it doesn't work. So he takes the water and hightails it back to the village and is in time to save his father. And as the game concludes and it ends off, we see the two of them back up at that grave marker for his mom, and they're kind of both there mourning the loss not only of the mother and wife, but also the older brother and older son, sort of thing. So very grim very grim game, very cool game, very short. It didn't take long to beat it, but really interesting. But yeah, just grim as fuck, and really hard to get used to the controls, because when you're trying to control two characters at the same time and steer them in the same direction or different directions sometime with the sticks, it's kind of like rubbing your belly and patting your head at the same time. You know, you can get into some good rhythms at some point, but then you can get really out of sync and look like an idiot, right? So very cool game, but also would have been much better if I had the version where you could play it with another person. But you can't always get what you want, right? Isn't that what the Stone said? Indeed it is. Last up, another video game. This one was on my list a while back, but I kind of forgot about it. So when I was looking for PS5 games after I first got the system, it came up on Amazon for a good price, and so I was like, yes, okay, I will. And it is called RoboCop Rogue City, based on RoboCop the movies. Apparently this one takes place between RoboCop 2 and 3, which I didn't even know they made that many RoboCop movies. But anyways, this game was made in 2022, I believe, and like I said, it takes place between RoboCop 2 and 3. And basically RoboCop is doing his usual thing, working for the Detroit Police Department. Him and Ann Lewis are out on patrol. They get into a bit of fracas, I think, with some local street gang members. And RoboCop kind of freezes up and he starts glitching, and he's having all these flashbacks of his previous life as a regular man, as Alex Murphy when he was a regular cop, and it's kind of crippling him. So when he gets back to the precinct, a guy from OCP, which is the mega corporation that is very prevalent in the city and funds RoboCop and a lot of the things around the city. Um, he's kind of this guy named Becker, I think, is put in the precinct to kind of monitor RoboCop and make sure everything's going swimmingly with him after he has this glitch. They don't want to take any chances, and he's also assigned a psychiatrist who kind of talks to RoboCop about his experiences, trying to get to the bottom of why he's having these flashbacks that are causing him to glitch. So as the story moves on, you do these evaluations with the psychiatrist, and then you go out on patrol, and so the story kind of unravels as you get out there, and as you investigate more gang activity, you find out there's a new guy on the scene calling the shots and causing all sorts of chaos in Detroit, and his name is the New Guy. So eventually RoboCop is able to ferret out his identity, and his name is Wendell Antonowski, and he is the brother of a criminal that RoboCop killed in the first RoboCop movie. So he's kind of out for vengeance and that sort of thing. And he's also the one kind of behind this glitching that that RoboCop's getting. And so he's kind of basically a thorn in RoboCop's side the rest of the game as you're trying to bring him in, track him down, and end his reign of terror. And in the meantime, there's other stuff going on. You have side quests where you have to like solve regular crime and protect citizens and dish out tickets and stuff like that. And there's other major events going on, like OCP is trying to push on the citizens of Detroit a brand new city called Delta City, a futuristic city that's going to be pristine. They're going to build it on the ruins of Detroit. Some people are for it, some people are against it. They're like, yeah, but what's the cost, right? Even though Detroit's run down as shit, we can't afford to be paying anything to get they're not just going to give it to us for free, right? And there's also a mayoral race going on, which will greatly determine which way the whole Delta City, Detroit City goes, right? So you get involved in a little bit of the politics as well. So really cool storylines. It played very similarly to the Terminator Resistance game that I played just before it, which you know how much I love that game. You have all these objectives, main story objectives you have to do to complete the game, and then you have all these side objectives you can choose to complete or not, but better you complete them because you get resources, you get XP, which helps you upgrade RoboCop's abilities, and his weapons and all sorts of shit, right? So I loved it. I didn't like it quite as much as Terminator Resistance. I really love that Terminator game, but this was a really, really good game and very close to how good Terminator was. And it was just a joy to play through. And in the end, I'm not going to tell you how it goes, but all of the storylines resolve themselves. And your choices during the game on who you decide to support and not support kind of determine certain aspects of the outcome of this game, which is kind of cool, you know. So it's kind of somewhat of an open world game in a way, where there's a lot of different balls in the air, and a lot of different ways the story can go, kind of depending on that. So plays great, looks great, so much fun. Keep making games like this. I'll keep buying them, and yeah, everybody will be happy. Anyways, I hope you're happy with these 5 things. 5 more coming up as soon as I possibly can. Toodles!
Meow.